Oh my God. Okay.
Hello, you are watching Quick Definitions, stated clearly.
Okay, folks, we are back. So excited. Let's get our closed captions on. And I don't know where we were, so we're just going to start from the beginning. It's a quick, short video anyway.
What is an allele in genetics? As we've learned in earlier videos, a gene is a stretch of DNA, usually a long stretch of DNA, that codes for something. What exactly do genes code for? Technically, they either code for specific proteins or they act as templates for functional chains of RNA, but because proteins and chains of RNA go on to produce traits, things like eye color and bone length, we can say that an organism's genes, in a roundabout way, code for an organism's traits. An allele is an alternative version of a specific gene.
And as I was saying, every single gene is an allele. So if I have blue eyes, it means I got a blue eye allele from mom and a blue eye allele from dad, because those are both recessive genes. And I know that if I got a brown, that would cover up the blue. Okay, so I know the two versions of the gene I got are both blue. Okay, so alleles are just different versions of the same gene.
If that sounds confusing, that's okay. It should become clear once we see a simplified example. Let's say there is a gene in a species of frog that codes for the frog's eye color. We will call it the eye color gene. No need to get too creative here. This frog has a version of the eye color gene, an allele of the eye color gene, that codes for yellow eyes. He has the yellow allele of the eye color gene. His buddy here has a different allele, a different version of the eye color gene. He has the red allele of the eye color gene. Now, this hypothetical example is overly simplistic.
That's okay that it's overly simplistic, but do you see the connection almost with the isotopes? You might have a carbon atom, and you have a carbon 12 version and a carbon 13 version. Those are different isotopes of the same atom. These, we have the eye color gene, but we have the red allele and the yellow allele, different versions of the same gene, like isotopes are different versions of the same atom.
In real life, there are multiple different genes and sometimes environmental factors that all play together to determine an animal's eye color. Also, most animals have 2 copies of their own DNA, meaning that a single animal can actually have 2 different alleles or 2 different versions of any given gene in its own genome. Furthermore, most alleles don't have any actual effect at all on a creature's observable traits, but don't worry about any of these technicalities for now. The important thing to understand is this: an allele is an alternative version of a specific gene. That's it. New alleles, new versions of old genes, come into existence via mutations. Once a new allele exists, it is forced to compete with other alleles in the population. For example, when the yellow eye allele happened to emerge within our hypothetical frog species, it might have given its host a survival advantage because its host could better blend into its environment and hide from predators.
You see how the little yellow-eyed guy is blending in a little better, right? And maybe he can survive a little bit better, so maybe he'll get to pass on his genes to future generations more than the red-eyed ones.
Because of this, over many, many generations, the yellow allele could dominate the population, completely outcompeting the red allele, causing the red allele's extinction. When an allele dominates an entire population, we call this fixation.
You don't need to know that word.
So there you have it. An allele is an alternative version of a specific gene. I'm John Perry, and that was a quick definition of an allele, stated clearly.
Okay, so now we're going to take a look at these two chromosomes here. Okay. And we're going to look both, we're not just looking at alleles, but we're also looking at chromosome pairs. Because as you know, for every chromosome that you have, you got one of them from mom, and the other one came from dad. So for chromosome number 1, you got chromosome 1 from mom and chromosome 1 from dad. So here we have two chromosomes that are the same number. Maybe they're chromosome number 1, maybe they're chromosome number 14, but they are the same chromosomes. They're the same size, they're the same shape, and they have all the same genes in the same locations. They might have different alleles of each gene, but they all have the same genes. So an allele, and we've got our vocab words over on the side, so these will be things that you add to your cheat sheet. Alleles are different versions of the same gene. If the gene is eye color, you might have a brown eye allele, which we might give the symbol big B, and a blue eye allele, symbol little b. Here's a new one for you. Homologous chromosomes. We didn't do the matter unit. Do you guys know what the prefix homo means? I can't remember if we did it in any context this year. The prefix homo means the same. Okay, so if you have homologous chromosomes, that means they contain all the same genes in all the same locations. One comes from mom, one comes from dad. They are the same size and they are the same shape. The only one where that is not the case is for the X and the Y chromosome. The X and the Y chromosome are very different sizes and shapes. Yes. That's why we're called Homo sapiens, yeah, because it's like us. Homo sapiens means similar to us, and sapiens means thinking, sapient. Sorry? There were homo means like there were homo habilis, homo erectus, homo neanderthal, right? So there's different ones that were like us, human species, but not directly homo sapiens. Okay? Yeah. So for example, for homologous chromosomes, and it's pronounced homologous, try saying that. If you're not comfortable saying it out loud, at least say it in your head. Homologous, 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 homologous. Okay. So homologous chromosomes is a pair of chromosomes. One from mom, one from dad, same genes, same locations. So homologous chromosomes might be chromosome number 1 from mom and number 1 from dad. You have 23 different chromosomes, different homologous pairs, okay? you have 23 pairs of homologous chromosomes. Now, they got some fancy language on here. They're calling it the paternal homologue and the maternal homologue. Paternal just means from who? Paternal means that one came from your pop, from your dad. Does anyone remember the symbol that we use for dad? You may or may not have done this. A circle and an arrow. That is Mars's shield and spear. Mars's shield and spear. Maternal means it comes from mom. And the symbol from mom or maternal is like that. That is Venus's hand mirror. So these are like from the Roman gods. A particular location on the gene is a particular location on the chromosome is always where you will find a particular gene. So in this particular location right here, we have the same gene on both chromosomes. On both homologous chromosomes. Now, this particular one is a little bit funny because we have two copies of the gene. We have a P gene and a P gene, capital P, capital P. And when you have two copies of the gene that are the same, capital P, that means that we say that for that trait, you are homozygous. What does homo mean? Same. And it means you have the same alleles. So you have the same alleles. So I am homozygous for eye color because I've got blue eyes and blue eyes. There's no way I can have a brown eye gene because otherwise I would have brown eyes. Okay? So I only have the blue eye allele. It is possible for someone with brown eyes to have a brown eye allele and a blue eye allele. And like the guy on the video said, it's so much more complicated than that. There is not a single eye color gene. There's all sorts of other factors that affect eye color, like environmental factors and hormonal factors and things like that. But just to make it super simple for something we can think about easily, if you have two copies of the brown-eyed allele, your eyes will be brown. If you have a brown and a blue, your eyes will be brown. And if you have a blue and a blue, your eyes will be blue. We haven't even started thinking about green eyes or hazel eyes, so I'm sorry if I've left you out of the discussion. But it just, like I said, it gets really complicated really fast. So if you are homozygous, you got a brown-eyed gene, or sorry, a blue-eyed gene from mom and a blue-eyed gene from dad. If you are homozygous, you maybe got a brown-eyed gene from mom and a brown-eyed gene from dad. That means you are homozygous. Where did the word zygous come from? When a sperm and an egg fuse, that one cell that is formed is called a zygote. You don't need to know that word, but that's where it comes from, okay? When the sperm and the egg fuse, you get mom's and dad's DNA mixing together, you get a zygote. We were zygotes at one point. The single cell was a zygote. Then it divides into several cells. We used to be one cell. So we all used to be one cell, and then it divides and divides and divides, and eventually it becomes something called a blastula, which is a sort of like a little ball of a bunch of cells. And then it becomes a gastrula. If I remember correctly, it's been like 30 years, so please excuse me if I'm wrong. And then that undergoes formation, and it becomes first an embryo, and then a fetus, and then it is born as a bébé. Okay? But in the meantime, if you are homozygous, you got 2 copies of the same allele. If you are heterozygous, hetero means different. You're probably familiar with both of these prefixes from homosexual and heterosexual. Heterosexual, people of different sexes attracted to one another. People who are homosexual, same sex attracted to one another. Homo, hetero. Homo, same. Hetero, different. And of course, we know there's tons more variation than that, but that is it as its simplest. So if we look here, do you see how we have a capital A and a capital A? That means it's going to be homozygous for whatever trait A is. Okay? If it's a little b and a little b, it is homozygous for whatever trait B is. Then we have a little c and a big C, so it is heterozygous for whatever trait C is. Okay, so if you see 2 different letters, that's heterozygous because they have 2 different alleles. Okay? So you'll notice that these two homologous chromosomes are similar, but are they completely the same? No. You might have the little c instead of the big C on one, okay? So pairs of chromosomes that have all the same genes, but just slightly different versions are called, what did we call those? They are similar pairs of chromosomes. They have all the same genes, but just slightly different versions. They are called homologous. And if you're wondering where the accent goes, it goes on the O, homologous. And you know what? I'm going to give you guys oh, no, I'm not. That's okay. Homologous. 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 We're going to skip past this, and we're going to go to this next picture. I'm going to let you do those ones on your own, so you can think about it a little bit. Sora? Do you need to be like a jerk? Yeah, but there was intent behind that. I'm not stupid. Okay? All right. So here we have a pair of homologous chromosomes. And these chromosomes are unreplicated. They're unreplicated because the cell is just doing its normal job. Do you need 2 copies of the genes from mom? No. You just need 1 copy of the gene from mom. Do you need 2 copies of the genes from dad? No, you just need 1 copy. So why would a cell bother to replicate its DNA? Why would we make a copy of the chromosome from mom and make a copy of the chromosome from dad? When do we do that? When do cells do that? When do they make copies of their DNA? Yes. Yeah, they do it right before the cell divides. Okay? Replication is just before cell division. So you have 2 copies of each chromosome. 1 is going to go to each new daughter cell. So you have why am I saying 1 copy? You have 2 copies. 2 copies of each chromosome. And that's because each daughter cell after division needs a copy. Now, the tricky part here, and why is it not moving for me? What is happening here? Here we go. Is that on the left, we have a pair of homologous chromosomes. And on the right, even after replication, we still just have a pair of homologous chromosomes. We don't say we have a quadrad. Okay, although they do kind of call them a tetrad sometimes, but anyway, we still just have a pair of homologous chromosomes. The difference between them is that we call the ones on the left unreplicated, and we call the ones on the right replicated. So if it just looks like a stick, that is unreplicated. Unreplicated looks like a stick. Replicated chromosomes look like an X. So we're going to do something here. We're going to hold up our arm, and that's going to be an unreplicated chromosome. Okay, so hold up your arm. That is an unreplicated chromosome. Now we are going to replicate the chromosome. Okay? And then when a cell is ready to divide, those two chromosomes, which are identical to one another, those two halves of the chromosomes are going to split to opposite ends. And can you imagine a new cell forms over here and a new cell forms over here? So, single cell, one copy of the chromosome. Before replication, what happens before cell division? And then what happens? Yes? So 1, 2, 3. That's essentially the little chromosome dance. 1, 2, 3. You'll notice that the homologous pair sometimes has different alleles. Sometimes it has the same alleles. It just depends. But when you make a copy, when you go from having a unreplicated chromosome to having a replicated chromosome, are the alleles ever different? Are those alleles ever different? You guys can't read? Are the alleles within a replicated chromosome on the two halves of the replicated chromosome, are they different? No, they are identical because it made an identical copy. Literally, like you stuck it on the photocopier and copied it. Okay, so you got a replicated chromosome, and then you have its homologous partner, the blue one. Okay, so these two together are homologous chromosomes, but the two sides of the replicated chromosome are called sister chromatids. New word. Unreplicated chromosome, replicated chromosome, sister chromatid, and sister chromatid. The two halves of the replicated chromosomes are called sister chromatids. Let's write that down here. Okay, why don't you try filling in pages 120 and 121? See what you've picked up today. Any new information that you've gotten from there, you can put onto your cheat sheet. Okay. Yes. Question number 5, cross out the second half of it. Okay? Just cross out the second half of it. Cross out question 5. Yeah, cross out question 5. I've changed things in the question so it doesn't work anymore. Yes, you may go for a walk. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Huh? That's. Oh, yeah. I really need to erase this whole thing because this was all from yesterday. Yes? Yeah. Yeah. What about it? Sorry? I have not marked it yet. I'm so sorry. And if you finish 121, you can read 122 and try the questions on 123, 24, and 25. What? Hang on. Yeah.
This is my second copy.
Okay, so folks, you're working through pages 120 to 124 today.
What's it? Oh, that was way more than 6. No, when I was on, I know. No, but there was like when I was starting, and then he hit 2 threes in 1. Then he hit 2 threes in 1. One layup. Scored 3. Yeah, I was on. Yeah. Sure.
And I'm sorry, I don't have your quizzes marked for you. The last 2 days have been very, very busy for me. So I will work on getting those done.
I was thinking that you
Yes.
I made 6 and 4 and 6. You know what? 0 and false. Bad. When he was on, yeah, he was on. No, like stop. Whenever they would be like over here, no. And whenever we would yell, like, these, like, exact same thing. Yeah, I didn't have that. Like, I was I told her how she has to sign up. Beginning with I this does
Is anybody dying to have their quiz marked? Because I can do a few ahead of time. Okay. Okay. Sorry? Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Today I have like some music concert thing, so I'm
Yes. No problem.
What are they gonna do? Yeah, we really appreciate your time. Oh yeah, so like strength.
Yes. No. I haven't marked them yet. I've been very busy the last 2 days. I haven't had time. I'm marking them. But there's no way I'm going to get through all of them in the next 10 minutes. So.
Yeah, one game. Someone sees it. Maybe my ankle was broken. Like more on better. And getting you are the whole thing. You're like, what is Bob? For you to benefit from that, you just well, like, I think here's like, that's actually what like. Yeah, we never run that. We need like at least like. Oh, yeah, we should ask that. Yeah, yeah. There's a term right here on there. I've seen that. let's just we're talking about a basketball player. Okay, Liam also like I didn't care. Did he carry that? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you know. He has a so man, yeah. When I we did I got Boston. Yeah. I was like, but also, I don't know if you saw other than food. It's just airline. No. You see a lot of you don't want I'm doing okay, so you can't see color. I'm assuming it's a light. This is the original. What do you want to get like this? Okay, out of there, all right. I didn't have to remember if you said like that. I got some. Oh yeah, all of it. I was also trying to get on the line. I was on fire. You are the you're number one. You're number one. Everyone wrong is all like I don't know 6 months. What am I? I'll say this considered as considered out. So I actually get not getting
Sherry and Sophie. Sherry. I'll get the rest of them back to you tomorrow. I'm so sorry for the delay. Thank you kindly.